Thanks, everybody. This is our first Harmonic Crypto webinar for 2018. Appreciate everybody showing up and want to go over some really important pairs. And I want to start with Bitcoin. Now, we know that things got super crazy, and I think everyone was scratching their head come mid-December, just a couple weeks ago, of what we really can expect from this, and even this whole market. So, some of the things that I've really been talking about of measuring these moves and even just not being afraid to take profits in these markets certainly left me out in the cold on a couple of the larger moves. And let's just look at Bitcoin on a daily. And when we're talking about harmonic patterns and harmonics, they're working incredibly well with the cryptocurrencies. In fact, the proportional ratio measurements, I mentioned this in our first webinar, of say simple 1618 and 618 retracements, have been incredibly effective. Now, the other part of that, I started to touch in on looking at relative strength. And something that I talked about in that first session was just simply how to look at relative strength, not only for its extreme moves, but how to differentiate the structures so that we know that if a large move happens, and I'll look at Ripple tonight as well, because that's something we talked about in the last session, of how to know when these things are going to resume their uptrend. These are all absolutely sailing. This is some of the greatest market action I've personally ever witnessed. It is on par with the dot-com boom of the mid-late 90s, but I think this is even more speculative and more intense. So that's the backdrop of really what I'm about to get into. One, we're in a speculative fervor. Does that mean that it's going to be over or we're looking at a bubble? Sure, it could be a bubble. But really what we want to focus on is until that bubble pops, we need to go with the trend. We know that Bitcoin, relative to even just a few months ago, has had an astronomical run. And that's a pretty scary chart to even try to get into that. But I want to show you guys a couple things tonight that are going to help you position for these trades, because I feel that even though a lot of these markets have done amazing moves, they're just getting started. In some instances, with some of these alternate coins, these altcoins other than Bitcoin, what you're looking at is just a simple reallocation. I think everyone understood Bitcoin on its surface, but the altcoins, Ripple, Litecoin, Ethereum, and many others have proven themselves remarkable. I mean, just incredible action. So let's look at Bitcoin first. And what do we see here when we look at this chart? Personally, Bitcoin is something that I was talking about on TradingView for quite some time. Let me see if I can find my, going back as far as even earlier this summer, some of my posts were looking for Bitcoin to go to say 8,000. Here's one from back in early November. Okay, this is a simple ABCD reaction. Now, this is something that I was talking about from the breakout, but this minimum pattern reaction at 8,000, now we've doubled that. And this is something that I actually posted quite some time ago. Let me go back here. And then here's the other one on Ethereum. Okay, Ethereum, incredibly, I've been following this. I actually, dipped my toe in a couple of coins here, way back at around 250, 300. But this structure of this ABCD pattern and some of the other, this is a small bat pattern reaction. Okay, this gave us the framework, told us, all right, minimum targets here, up around 545. Well, it's trading almost double that. what do? First of all, just understand that the measurements alone are giving us very clear targets, very clear measured levels to give us some kind of idea so that you're not just sitting there buying, holding, hoping. The other thing that I talked about is that no matter how strong these markets run, we want to look at 1 hour and 4 hour time frames on the daily and wait for pullbacks. And we have one here in Bitcoin versus the dollar. So first, let's just look at the basic action itself of the last couple of months. I mean, pretty much we are on an accelerated trend line right now. In a harmonic terms, simple accelerated trend line, what that means is it's a steeper trend line, usually possesses more aggressive action, and is more than a 60-degree angle. Now, yes, we can alter the time and the date axis and price axis, but we don't want to fudge it. Clearly, this is an aggressive trend line up. And then let's just do our, what I like to call a primary, very basic 45-degree uptrend. And those are your two trend line proposals. Okay, I know a lot of GAN analysts will break up various degrees of trend lines. That's not our consideration. Let's keep it simple. Let's respect what the trend is. And as long as we ride that trend line, we want to look at pullbacks. We want to look at retracements that ride this trend line. Because we know that pretty much about the announcement of Bitcoin futures, that's when this thing really started to go crazy. And now we've had a nice pullback, not only in terms of price, but time. And we have a couple of interesting things here that from a really basic standpoint of utilizing this last correction, we really only want to look at two levels. Now we already have almost 4 of the 5 important points for any type of pattern structure. Typically, when we're dealing with harmonic patterns, we're looking at M or W formations. So we're looking at Bitcoin right now, looks like it's starting to catch some support here on this trend line. And if I'm looking at this as a basic pattern formation, I'm going to trace this out in such a manner. Look at that B point, treat that as a C. And now we've got one of two possibilities. First possibility on this, if we trace this out, is a bat pattern. And so this bat pattern structure up at the 886, we know that because of the B point, less than a 618, pretty close. That's fairly close to a 618. Actually, let me get that on a magnet. There you go. There you go. That's a little better. So that gives us our basic pattern assumption here that Bitcoin's in the process of, even if it's a cell, this cell formation, I don't care if how bearish, and I've heard all kinds of stories, but I'm just going to take this simply on the price structure itself. We've got a bat structure up here at this 886 that says that even if this thing is a sell-off, even if this thing does eventually give us a decline, this price still needs to come up and test this pattern. It's kind of the magnet effect that I've talked about many times in my books, the importance of respecting that structure. And clearly, at a minimum, this developing pattern points up to the around 19,000, 18,500 for this next retest. Now, the other part of that, and that's a minimum structural measurement. That gives us one sign of evidence, one sign of the fact that the run in Bitcoin, 1, is not over. 2, we're going to retest the highs. And 3, if this thing really gets going, what's likely going to happen is a much larger continuation. And I say that because of what is happening in relative strength. Now, in my volume 2 book, I've talked a lot about the importance of identifying the relative strength formation, because we can look at these formations in the same way we do price structures. We're going to be a little, I think, a little more general in terms of we're not looking at precise levels as much as patterns, but we certainly want to recognize the structure. And in this case, this M formation, this is a daily chart too, right here and here, gives us the indicator downtrend. All right, and this M formation, we can even trace it out, can be traced and measured on the indicator, much in the same way that we do the patterns. Now, I've talked about this in other areas. I haven't so much talked about patterns in indicators outside of what I've done with RSI BAM and the divergence and confirmation methods. And I'll finish up with RSI BAM a little bit, but just to show you guys that we can trace out patterns the same way and utilize them. There's your 886 down there, as again, as a minimum formation to look for where the indicator, at least at a minimum, the indicator correction is terminating. And then we can begin to look for that price, looking for a resumption in the uptrend. Now, in this case, this pattern, this little retracement off of that prior low is a starting point. It's not an immediate buy point, but it begins to stack the evidence that we can optimize our entry by looking and respecting what this tells us. Now, in this situation, let's remove that. Sorry about that. Let's take that out. Thank you. Great. Now, the key event that's happening, and literally right now as we speak on the daily chart, it triggered probably yesterday, it's confirming today, tomorrow, is this breakout right now of the downtrend on the daily. Very critical. Sure, great question. A quick question came in. We are dealing with straight up Wilder's RSI, just simple, the Wilder 14 period RSI equation. We're looking at the TradingView platform, and that is all free. Their XABCD tool and the retracement, just go to insert the indicator and use an input relative strength index. And that's what I use, relative strength index. I use the Wilder equation of all the indicators. I feel that that works the best with harmonic ratios and also gives us some of the clearest signals in the indicator structures once you know what to look for. In much the same way that when I defined the rules and the ratios for the patterns, it became a lot easier to recognize where they complete. The indicator structures and the differentiation of how to treat these is equally as important. With the cryptocurrencies and with this kind of continuation action, okay, these triggers, these relative strength triggers, are some of the strongest and some of the best ways to optimize the entries to capture the continuation of the trend. For Bitcoin right now, literally today and into tomorrow, what we're looking for is a breakout to confirm this retest. And so if we take off that pattern, the minimum pattern constraint in Bitcoin says 3,000 higher and in quick order. I mean, we're talking the next 2 weeks, if not sooner. And we've seen that this thing, once this thing gets moving, how fast it can go. But the sign of this breakout in the indicator gives us the first real confirmation. The other thing that I stress about relative strength, and one of the things that I've talked about in my books is the concept of RSI BAM, which is relative strength index. That is the whole RSI BAMM stands for a bat action magnet move. And that magnet move, that's exactly what I'm describing here. We have all of the conditions that we're looking for. We have a price breakout against that accelerated trend, right? I'm going to bring that down here. All right, even if we go off of that one or there, okay, we see this price breakout. This is our long-term uptrend. The key thing of all of this is that we have a test up here. In this case, we have an M formation. I call that a complex structure. That comes down to the 50 level, and that's the key differentiating point of any complex RSI formation. One of the things that Wilder talked about in his book, New Concepts in Technical Trading Systems, was the importance of multiple RSI tests. That's where you get divergence, that's where you get confirmation. For our perspective, and a strategy that's been working incredibly effective with the cryptos has been simply recognizing this M formation, waiting for it to go to the 50 line, which is right here, that midpoint line, and then overlaying a simple breakout, a little downtrend, and looking for the breakout on the indicator. So if that's our 50 right here, and here's our downtrend line, we can see that this just triggered in the last couple of days, last 2 days. Our two expectations, our minimum expectation for right now is for an 886 retest. That's the bat coming into play here. And let me retrace that out. There's only one of two possibilities as well. Look, when we line that up, the bat at the 886 or a full 1618 extension. A little bit higher, like that. And that puts you up at 25,000. And now that sounds crazy, but listen, this whole thing's been crazy. And I feel that that's the target. Bitcoin to 25,000, 25,500. That is what the measurements are telling us. And what we're looking for is we're looking for the relative strength index. Okay, now that we've satisfied those conditions, basically start a new trend line up. Give us a trend line. And this is our target. Back up to retest this complex structure, retest this RSI up at 70, either at the 886 or retest to the high, which these are minimum objectives, but more like 25,000, more at that 1618. We've seen that 1618 number and the 618 retracement come in time and time again on the cryptocurrencies. Those are the prime harmonic ratio numbers that all other numbers are based off of. So I have continued with really exploring what are the relationships that are working here. It's certainly mostly speculative. We're in a situation where people are piling money into this, and that's not going to stop just because we've had an incredible run, 1,000, 2,000% run. That's not going to stop. In fact, this is something that is probably developing the next leg higher. And even for those of you that know simple ABCD structures, even if we take an ABCD off of, say, that last move before it really got crazy, an approximated ABCD again takes us up to about 25,000. So this is the next leg, and I think we've just entered into it in the last 24 hours, and it's something that everyone needs to pay attention to. I want to show, let's go over to really quick, let's go to Ethereum, show Ethereum, and then if you guys have one or two you want to look at, go ahead and let me know. But here is Ethereum. Again, remember that 545 level. And again, this was based on looking at those targets and looking at a complex structure. When I posted that, and this is several months ago that I posted that, let me clean this chart up. One of the reasons why I posted that ABCD minimum target up to 545 was a simple recognition of this complex structure. You guys can check out my TradingView forum, my TradingView ideas. I'm going to start putting more crypto posts up there, but same type of thing here. And that's why I said it was going to 545. On the daily chart, this correction with setting up all of this gave us the breakout for a higher move. This is the kind of thing a lot of people aren't looking at, but really critical. I feel that everyone needs to pay attention to. It's simple RSI, 14 period, but do recognize not only the extremes, but the types. That's going to give us this complex breakout here is one of the strongest continuation moves I'm seeing in these in the cryptos. So we go to Ethereum, say on a 1 hour chart, or if you want to trade it, let's go to a 5 minute chart. All right, and even in the last 5 minute chart, here is again that complex structure I talked about. Goes down to the 50 line, and that's the key. Sometimes it's going to go all the way to the 30, but if it goes to the 50, that's the minimum breakout that we're looking for. And then this kind of gap, we're shooting that gap. This is the magnet move where we play that breakout again, either up to a retest of the prior high or as much as a 1618 extension. Typically, these type of situations, when they really go, they're going to go to a minimum 1618 extension. So that's about right there. That's about 945 or so, 940. Let's leave right there. But at this point here, yesterday on a 5 minute chart, down around 928, this breakout told us that there's another move higher, 30, 25, 30 higher. But again, we can do this over and over again. We want to usually go with the complex structure breakouts with the trend. Trend is up. Let me just show, let's look at say a 1 hour time frame. What do we have here? Last couple of formations here. Nothing really. The thing that I was looking at last time was a 4 hour time frame, and talking about it was last month. There we go. We again here on the 4 hour time frame, we had another. Here's another complex structure right there. Okay, and look at where that lines up, where the breakout really comes. Again, oh, let me take this back, guys. Bear with me 1 second. Insert the indicator. Again, standard relative strength index, 14 period. There you go. And I want to show the other one. So we have a complex structure right there. There's the breakout. And then we come back and we're playing the retest. And look what happens. Another complex structure. The thing to know about that is we treat that as like almost a reset. Until we get an impulsive structure that is a quick kind of V-shaped move like that, that is more significant. But this M-type structure, when we get the pullbacks, that's a complex RSI structure. Okay, that's giving us the optimal entries for continuations. Let's look at really quick one that I can't even believe it, but one that I've been talking about for quite some time is Ripple. And this thing's 276. We were talking about this last month, all the way down here, about 25 cents. And then we came back and we did another one last month. And I was just projecting this situation here. Look at another complex structure. Here is RSI. It's an M-shaped formation. Okay. Just do the breakout. This is the start. This is an RSI BAM breakout, a harmonic breakout, incredibly effective. Now, here's the thing, is that our minimum objectives, say the 1618 of the prior move, we're just simply looking for projecting some kind of 1618 extension from that prior high. Let's see where it gets us right about. Okay, that puts us in Ripple around 115. All right, these are minimum targets. Minimum, but that was triggering it in down here at about 70 cents. Now we looked at this and go to my YouTube channel. We did a phenomenal video on some of these alternate coins way before they became what they are now. And Ripple, it's still moving. But I want to show, even if you missed this move or you missed the moves we were talking about back at the end of November, let me just show you another 4-hour formation here. Look, here's an M formation. Almost down to the 50, didn't quite get there. I prefer to see them come to the 50. They're a bit more complete. But even the recognition of the complex structure, once that breaks out, there has to be a retest. And that's how we trigger and play that. And look where that happens here. It's happening at a point of consolidation. And then again, if we recognize that M formation, our assumption is a 1618 extension. And these are just repeating over and over again. 1618 on that. That takes you about $3. Maybe a little bit lower. There you go. And these are simple retracements, but it's a way to recognize RSI and look for the quick pullbacks to then play for a resumption of the trend. I do want to show a difference between, say, this formation and that formation. This is a quick impulsive formation. This does not have an M in the extreme like that formation or that formation. So this is not a valid trigger. This is, though. And in fact, looks like Ripple, maybe it gets a little bit higher and hits the $3 level coming up at that 1618. But this would be a great example of, let's say Ripple does something like this. Okay, maybe it goes a little bit higher and then it comes back down to the 50. Trades a little bit and then gives you your move. Okay, so forget this move that you missed. But this next one that's going to come down to the 50. Okay, this is how we find really clear accelerations, find harmonic breakouts, and then can utilize just these simple 1618 extensions to gauge how far it can go. Now Ripple, you know, this thing is exploding, and I think it's more of a market capitalization play than anything. And I'm not going to even venture to guess how high that can go, because a lot of my there you go. A lot of my projections, for example, Etherium at 545 as a minimum target, now double that, is just blowing away, rational, I guess, measured moves. But that's only one side of the coin, so to speak. We want to look at utilizing the projections and even shorter term pullbacks, like I was showing with RSI. I'll go with one more. The other one that I did a lot of work on earlier this year was Litecoin. And Litecoin just running in tandem with Bitcoin. And let's go to a 4-hour chart on that. Here's the rundown. Again, notice the complex structure. Here's that M formation. We had it actually 2 times. Here's an M formation there with a breakout right off of there. Okay, but here's a better one, because I really feel that the minimum retest to the 50 gives us the greatest setup. That's one of the rules of RSI BAM. And I'll show you where you guys can learn more about this in a second. But notice here's the M structure, and this is Litecoin. But look where it comes down. It doesn't hit the 50 line, which is right there. It comes down just shy. Now the larger move, and actually one of the best setups with these M formations, is when you get an M formation, it comes all the way to the 30. That this quick test down here, that just materialized about 2 days ago. And also notice this simple trend line breakout, okay? These are the first evidence, first signs, first evidence we have that this consolidation phase is almost over. Despite being up several 100% in the last couple of months, this is our measured proposition here. We've got a very clear uptrend. A lot of people say this is a wedge formation, pennant formation. What we want to focus on is just simply respecting the fact that this is a unique formation up here at the top that requires a retest. That is our harmonic expectation. And then wait for trend line breakout of this clear downtrend, price breakout, which what we have, and then just looking in on where that comes in of this breakout in here really defines this area around 225, maybe 230, maybe as low as 215. In this area, is 220 area is certainly where we want to be looking for a continuation, that this is going to pick up. And the final thing is just utilize the uptrend of RSI as well. That's going to help us gauge the strength of the recovery. So that's a pretty aggressive, remember I started out the session saying that's an accelerated move. Even if we did a 45-degree steady uptrend, as long as RSI follows this and price begins to make progress, okay, we are looking at a breakout to new highs. For now, our minimum targets on Litecoin take us up to about 340. So we're talking 100 higher here, and we're talking now. If this thing really breaks out, gets crazy again, just draw another 1618 extension. Can't even draw it up there. Let me get this down here. That 1618 on Litecoin brings you to above 500, 502, 500. Yeah, it's called 500. So call it 505 on Litecoin. That's our target. Bitcoin target, 25,000. And for stuff like Ripple, I think you just got to wait for those kind of pullbacks, those complex pullbacks. That could probably go to about $5. I won't get into why, but listen, these are running and these are speculative markets. I'm not going to fight them. I'm not going to try to justify them. I don't really care. I want to measure them and I want to keep going with the trend. I want to use some of these harmonic strategies so that I have a clear idea that I'm not just getting in something in any area. We can wait, we can be patient, but certainly need to continue with this uptrend until proven otherwise. So thanks everybody. Listen, I want everyone to sign up. Come join us here at Harmonic Trader. Again, the basic membership is open to everybody and it has an entire course in there. And let me show you the one or two of the videos that you sign up at the basic membership site. And then in the course that I've set up that's free, go check out the execution, the angle of ascent. That especially, I talked a little bit in this session about how to look at these trend lines and how to gauge them coming off of it. This kind of thing is invaluable if you know harmonic patterns, but you really haven't been able to turn them into profits. It's this kind of information that fills in the gaps. Whether you're trading cryptocurrencies, regular currencies, futures, stocks, it doesn't matter. The harmonic method of what we've created, kind of the whole plan that I've devised, recognizes not only the measurements of how far a market can move, but what kind of character. For the cryptocurrencies, we're dealing with an extreme bullish speculative character that is in full mode. and we want to just ride it and ride it until, as I said, until proven otherwise. You stay with this, you buy pullbacks. The final thing, guys, that if you want to check out the gold member resource page, that has everything that you need, including the live sessions, the monthly report. The more advanced webinars in here, I have a whole series of probably about 35 hours of individual webinars, but some of the more advanced strategies that get into the finer points of the RSI BAM, RSI divergence. There is one that is shows everything about RSI divergence and simple relative strength. And then the other one of the advanced case studies, where we look at all of this, look at these combinations and how complex structures and impulsive structures can define the most powerful pivot points. So you don't need to be a pro at harmonic patterns, but the simple measurements, simple identification of relative strength is going to vastly improve where you guys get into these and where you look for profits. If you have any questions, please reach out to me at harmonictrader@harmonictrader.com. Sign up. We're going to be doing sessions once a week here, and you can check it out at on our calendar as well here. That is in the website, all of our sessions and everything we do. So thanks, everybody. You have a great night. Appreciate the session, and we'll see you next week.